Then I can pause. Hi, folks out there and social equity applicants and everyone who's tuning into the META Deep Dive series. My name is Dimitri Downing. I'm one of the moderators. You might know me from the META meetings or from other seminars. More about me later. Again, we're pleased to thank our sponsors, 420 Collections, Weed Maps, Zuber Lawler, Copper State, Cookies, and Scottsdale Community College. Those are our main sponsors for social equity, and they've been very helpful in helping us get together this course. Today, we are pleased to do social equity deep dive module 32. And it doesn't matter because it's not 32, doesn't make it better or worse. We have these all lined up in a weird way, but you'll see that all online. We're very pleased to be joined by Air Wellness, representatives from Air Wellness, formerly known as Oasis here in Arizona. I've known the Oasis team, which is now part of the Air Wellness team, for almost a decade here in the state. Fantastic organization, filled with information, filled with knowledge, great people to work with. And they have chosen to volunteer some time today. So you can get to know a little bit about who they are, what they do, and have them as a resource to reach out to as you go through your social equity journey. And should you win a license post awarding as to how and why, it would be a good idea to reach out to them. So let me go ahead without any further delay and introduce, I'm not sure if he's the head or what your exact title is, Jamie. I just know you as Mr. Air, and you can introduce the rest of your team. But Jamie Mendola, tell us about yourself, a little bit about Air, etc.
Sure. So I'm Jamie Mendola. I head up the strategy and M&A team at Air Wellness. I've been there since day one, since the beginning of the company, and was part of the initial team as we've scaled this business to now include 8 states and 1,500 employees. So we've done a good job as we've started from a 2-state operator in Nevada and Massachusetts, and really spread our wings to become a multi-state operator. And I think we've learned some things by being the second mover that have really benefited us as we've executed locally. So we're now in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Arizona, and Nevada. And Illinois, sorry, our latest state. And I'm joined by my colleagues. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just really, before you introduce your colleagues, I always like to throw these things out just in case somebody doesn't know. But what is an MSO, just for definition wise?
Sure. Yes. Good question. So MSO is the term that I think was given to this industry for those that are in multiple states. So it stands for multi-state operator. So just references groups that are active in more than one state.
And as we explore the economics and the reality of the situation as to what these license holders are going to be confronted with as they're awarded their license, we should get deeper into the MSO concept. But I didn't want to take away from introducing your colleagues first.
Sure. So I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues, Rob Vanesco, who runs our communications and PR teams, and Renzo Mejia, who works with me on business development and acquisitions and licensing. And Renzo has previously worked started out at the ground level at the dispensary, became a GM, worked in the wholesale business for GTI, and most recently, before he joined us, worked at Verano. So he's worn a bunch of different hats as an operator, a license winner, and business development across multiple functions.
Excellent. Where are you guys physically based out of?
So I'm based in San Francisco, Renzo's in Chicago, and Rob's in New York.
Excellent. Well, we definitely hope you guys are out here for August 25th, September 29th. We have a date in October, date in November, all on our website. Plus, we have some in-person town halls. We really don't know when people are going to be watching these between September, October, November, December. But networking is key to understanding this industry and who to work with and stuff. So your team is absolutely invited to come out. And folks, if you see Jamie, you now know what he looks like. Maybe we'll have an image of Robert Renzo pop up here. It's all right. But keep an eye out for them at META gatherings. Definitely somebody to reach out and talk to. And that's one of the main points, is that so people know, put a face together and say, hey, I saw you, Jamie, you talked about MSOs. Thanks for, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, let's move forward. And we're pleased to have you as part of the Arizona family, AIR and your individual selves. So let's move forward. So we'll focus on you, Jamie, and then Robert, Renzo, you can interject, or you can send over questions to them as you feel is appropriate. So how long have you been involved in cannabis, Jamie? Tell us your journey, because everybody has a journey,
Yeah. So I've been involved in cannabis for about 6 years. The first couple years as an investor, and then obviously the last 4 years or so as an operator. My journey to cannabis really came from a personal story. My parents both got ill, reasonably early in life. My mom suffered from MS, and my dad had cancer and really struggled with chemo medicine, and had a bad stroke. And they both were struggling with Western medications and became early medical marijuana patients. And unfortunately, it was a little bit, towards the end of their lives. But that was my aha moment where I really saw it helping, people in need at the expense of Western medications, and only wish we had sort of found that solution, earlier in their life. And I guess that, combined with living in the Bay Area, where I had seen the California market, evolve, over the years from some of the earlier stage, medical markets, and move towards adult use. Just by virtue of osmosis, just always being an entrepreneur, at heart, based in Silicon Valley, I thought, this is something that people don't get. There's wide application. This is something that really helps people. And the use cases are really going to introduce a bunch of new consumers into the category as this market, moves from the unregulated market to the regulated market. And I just found the right team of people that had a similar vision of how we wanted to build a company, how to do it the right way, how to be very respectful and inclusive in the communities, and really give back, to the people that have struggled along the way, to get this industry to where it is. And we felt like we could build a team from an operational, a capital, and a public company perspective that could compete very effectively in what we all agree is going to be one of the biggest growth industries of the next decade.
Have you been with AIR all 6 years?
So AIR was formed in 2017. And prior to that, I was running a fund. And so I was an investor in the capital pool that was AIR. And then I basically joined as, I think, one of the first couple employees.
Excellent. At this point, you should just give your cell phone number, because anybody would be crazy not to call you as soon as they need information and stuff. But we'll get to that contact info at the end. It'll have people, learn a little bit before they call you. That's
Sure.
Actually quite funny. Now I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, I need to call you, So actually this is, I know a lot about this industry myself, and this isn't about me, this is about you. But, I joined the industry for financial reasons back in 2012. I saw it as a good economic opportunity, but it led me personally, as I heard stories of friend after friend who told me how they use cannabis for therapy, for medication, for their own personal choices and reasons. It led me to be extremely passionate about choice, about freedom. It led me to yoga. It led me to naturopathic medicine, alternatives to Western medicine. It's really helped expand my personal knowledge, et cetera. So it's good to hear yours and see, and meet a fellow comrade in this journey. So that's fantastic. Tell us, so 2017 AIR was formed. AIR is obviously one of the more prominent MSOs. I think you guys will probably be they're invited to participate, but you volunteered your time. So again, this is fantastic that you're here. You guys are one of the more prominent MSOs in the country. How did that end up happening? Could you tell us a little bit about AIR's journey?
Sure. So AIR actually started as a SPAC, which is a special purpose acquisition company. SPACs have become more prominent across multiple industries the last few years. But effectively, to boil it down, a SPAC means we raised a pool of capital without any operational assets, And we said, look, we're going to go after the US cannabis plant touching business back in 2017, which was pretty early in the scheme of public investment and institutional capital coming into the space. And what we did is we went and put together and started a company effectively through a platform of acquisitions. So we started with several acquisitions in Nevada that led us to becoming the largest vertical operator in the state of Nevada, where we have somewhere between 10 and 15% market share in that state.
And
And
Nevada,
then
impressive.
and then so we have 6 dispensaries, 2 grows, and 2 production facilities. So we have a very nice business there. And quite frankly, I think Nevada and Arizona are probably 2 of the most similar markets in terms of the market structure. So we can come back to that later. And then in Massachusetts, we bought one of the original medical vertical operators and have really expanded their business at both the wholesale and the retail side. And so we basically had a very profitable 2-state operation. We built both the corporate and the local operational teams, and waited while there was a bunch of silly activity going on in the space with respect to what we felt were overinflated valuations and a bunch of kind of hypey stuff going on. And we stayed very disciplined, fully integrated those businesses, and got our sea legs under us such that when the opportunities came back, we were ready to really pounce and expand our business. And so we started doing that in the beginning of 2020. And over the last 18 months, have added 6 additional states. And I think by size, we're probably, I don't know, maybe the 5th largest, multi-state operator. And we think over the next couple of years, as we put a couple pieces together, we'll have a shot at getting into the top 3 or so.
And you guys, what's your, you guys started a partnership with, I know Rami and Jason, some other close friends at Oasis, fantastic organization. How did the Oasis, what's your presence in Arizona? And tell us about how Oasis is now part of AIR, kind of, just so.
Yeah, sure. So Oasis has been, one of the longer standing operators in the Arizona market. They have 3 dispensaries, 2 in Chandler and 1 in Glendale. We have a small on-site cultivation facility at Chandler, cultivation production, and we're building out about 80,000 square feet of indoor grow in Phoenix that should be completed relatively soon.
So if you can hold it, and this is one of the most important aspects of this, is the people out there watching that, Jamie's an accessible guy. There's 3 dispensaries operating, 2 cultivations. As you want to understand the industry, as you're expanding, or once you get awarded, I mean, some people will wait until after they're awarded. Some people will just want to learn ahead of time. But Jamie's there to help you. Oasis AIR is there to help you understand how this whole process works. So again, thank you, humbly, thank you again for making your presence known to the community. But go ahead, back to Arizona.
Yeah, so that's our business today. We're in discussions with a couple smaller dispensary groups, dispensary here and there. I think we would like to be one of the top operators in the state. We find the market dynamics to be very attractive from a license structure and population growth perspective. And quite frankly, we think as the industry matures, there's an ability to up the game a bit in terms of what the retail footprint looks like, bringing access to data and systems, bringing some of our brands from outside the state, whether those are private label brands or brands that could be distributed more broadly, wholesale, and just some of the standard operating procedures to what was already a very well-run group in Oasis. So really, it's partnering with them, adding some human capital, financial and systems-based resources to really just take what was good and make it a bit better. And we're not a group that swoops in and takes over and changes everything day one. We really believe in the spirit of partnership, and we like to really elevate and work with the talent that's there, and just try to bring tools and resources to accelerate growth and to make that group better.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. I'm not an expert, and I keep thinking to myself, I know the Oasis people, and they probably thought they were experts, but then in comes Air, and you guys have the expertise of six, how many states? Like all these
8
dispensaries,
states, yeah.
yeah, all these retail states, and you can bring in best practices. And so what Oasis is now is probably, after a year or so with Air, is probably, a few percentage points better than it was before because of your guys's presence, which is fantastic. It's a lot of people don't understand that it's a complicated industry, and that retail experience is different state by state. And when you're working with MSOs, you're actually benefiting from all the different regulatory models, all the different experimentation, all the different innovation, and you have a better chance of success if you have more of those options. But let's move forward. So, a lot of social equity applicants, they won't know what to do when they're awarded the licenses. And, I'm telling people, these are complicated structures. The financials are complicated, as you know very, very well. You have to open up your retail location. You have to open up your cultivation. Your backs against you're not your backs against the wall. You're confronted by the reality that everybody else is already doing this. It's a very challenging position to be in. And my advice to them is to reach out to individuals like you and start a relationship, to communicate, to learn, to share, to maybe partner or work with. I'm advising a lot of people just to sell. Whatever your options, just to sell. Peace of mind, man. Just go on with your life. You literally won the lottery. There's no denying the reality that these things will be worth 10+ million upon issuance. Although the market, with 26 new retail licenses coming out, I would tell a social equity applicant, you might be one of the first ones to sell because no one knows what's going to happen there. But, given all those parameters, we could go on for days on that subject. What would you, social equity applicant calls you post winning, except for, call me and let's have a 3-hour meeting so you can learn how the industry works. What would you say to them?
Yeah, look, this, as you mentioned, this is a complicated industry and capital intensive, right? So there's multiple paths people can take. Certainly selling is one. It's certainly not the only option, depending on, what people want to do with their time and what their background was historically. But whether they decide they want to operate or they decide they want to sell or somewhere in between where they partner, I think making sure that you have the key capital, operational, and kind of local resources to be successful is super important. And we saw this in the initial lottery back when the Arizona market, got set up. I mean, better than I, how many of those partnerships and groups ended up in litigation and infighting and didn't have the money. It was a disaster, right? And so figuring out who to get in bed with is very important, because I'm guessing, just like if I want a license in my own account, like you just need a team of people that have a broad, range of experiences. There's no one or two people out there that know how to do it all. And so making sure that you have the appropriate breadth of experiences, which by the way, includes having the operational expertise and the security protocols and all the things that go with it to be able to get the final license. Never mind, the capital and the legal resources to make sure that you get from here to the finish line. And I think what you'll find, I mean, yes, we're a group that obviously, wants to, expand and increase our footprint. But I think if you look at what we've done in other states, we have incubation programs. We've been a really good steward of our, to our communities. And I would gladly be a resource, to people, whether they have specific questions, whether they're brainstorming their options. We're not doing this in a self-serving, way. We really want to support, social equity's, role in this industry. And if there's a role for us to be helpful in a more commercial, way, great. And we recently did that, in Illinois, where we partnered with a social equity candidate. We own a minority stake, and we're going to help him really live out, his dream with our, capital and operational support. But really, we want to see people be successful and for this industry to thrive. There's enough market demand, particularly given the number of licenses in this market, for everybody to be successful if they're doing it the right way. And we think in an industry where people are following the rules, where they're giving consumers good products, I think we all can sort of help elevate the image of the industry more so than necessarily just fighting it out amongst ourselves.
Wow, you hit a trigger word with me that sent chills down my spine, like gave me goosebumps. I'm like, wow, you guys have done this before. Because here's the reality situation. What you said, what you guys did in Illinois, and we should explain a little bit more about that. But that's probably much more a one-on-one conversation you want to have with people. But the reality on the ground is what I see happening is that 26 will be issued, and John, you just want a social equity license. You want to have a conversation. Well, this is what I think, John. Sell your asset that you now have, and whatever parameters and capacity the state allows you to sell legally, sell it, because you're just going to deal with a lot of hassles with raising capital, with investors. The market structure is complicated. We're going interstate. We don't know what's going to happen. Fair market value, just sell the thing as quickly as possible. That's my first advice to people, because they can go on with life, and then they can control something entirely themselves, spending a few $1 million opening up a brand or something. My second advice is find people who've done this before with social equity applicants and created these partnerships and management contracts to work with them in whatever that art looks like. And quite frankly, it's an art. And, I don't need to name all the names, but different dispensary groups, different MSOs, different individuals, just anyone who, wants to step forward, we'll have different management styles, different management contracts, different management ideas, and they need to weigh them. The social equity applicants need to weigh them against each other, and the character of the individuals that they work with, how those individuals have helped them move forward in their journey, et cetera. So when you said you guys have done this before in Illinois, I was like, you're the first person that I've said that I've met that has actually said something like this. You want to give us a little bit more information? I'm sure there's NDAs and non-disclosures and stuff that you can't talk about. But it would help us a little bit. It would help people out there to know a little bit about how that process worked a little bit,
Yeah, so I'll talk generally speaking how these things work. Obviously, I'm not going to get into the guts of our deal, but in Illinois, they've actually now done over the last couple of weeks 2 different social equity rounds. Some of the requirements on the definition of a social equity candidate are similar, some are a little bit different, but effectively we partnered with a gentleman who's a minority veteran in the Chicago area. He owns 51% of the business. We own 49% of the business. So he effectively, has the controlling ownership. And we'll work through things like capital contributions and management agreements. He's never, operated a dispensary, and so he is going to rely fairly heavily, on us for guidance and support and learnings from, other markets and for, capital. But he likely wants to stay involved, and so we're going to figure out the best way to support him and integrate him into a leadership role of this kind of LLC that is a partnership between the two of us.
Just crossed my mind when we do our in-person town halls in September, and excuse me for just having a discussion while we're recording a video webinar, let's see if we can have that individual come out with you to talk about what you guys did. Would that be of interest?
Yeah. Well, I'll see if that works, and that's that's a decent idea. Look, I think that's it. Just generally speaking, I think anyone that's a student of this industry and learns what has happened in other markets, right? A lot of folks that maybe are only in Arizona, you focus, most heavily on what you know and what you see and what's right in front of you. Mm-hmm. But paying attention to how other markets have developed, the learnings and failures, of other groups. And, we, to a certain level, we've had the benefit of being the second mover, right? Like we were, our company's 4 years old, really 3 years old for the most part. Some of these businesses, even some of the other multi-state operators have had, a longer, period in this industry, but we've actually been able to learn, from the mistakes, from the pitfalls, how to do things, differently. And I'm sure we would have made some of those mistakes had we had been around a decade. So I'm not throwing shade at anyone else. But I think we have that lens of seeing what has been successful and what hasn't. We understand the importance of being a great local operator and a great partner in those communities. And we take that very, very seriously. And it's definitely one of those values of our company that comes from the top of how do we make these communities successful? How do we make sure that when those consumers come in the store, they're seeing their friends, their cousins, their, family members that are a part owner, that are, the general manager, that are the employees of that group. And, as much as at some level, we're a corporate group like some of the others, I think we really care about that hyper localization, and we're kind of walking the walk, or walking the talk, I guess.
No, I like it because, we don't know how this is going to play out in Arizona yet. And I'm, telling people, get your lawyer, I would, if I wasn't going to sell, I would turn it over to one of these companies that knows what they're doing, that's properly financed, that you trust and you have a good relationship with. Structure your management agreement, let them management. But you're taking it, the direction you guys are taking it is within the spirit of the concept of social equity, which is good. It's kind of like not legally necessary, but it's the right thing to do, which speaks volumes about your corporate philosophy. So it's good. I didn't know this about AIR until we met right now. So that's fantastic. That's
And
why
look, every market's different. I mean, Arizona, obviously there's the social equity spirit of creating a lot of wealth, for the people that win the lottery. I mean, we can all discuss, the pros and cons of how they set up the program, and what that means for the long-term operational impact of social equity people having an ongoing role in this market, which I'm not sure they got totally right. But the positive is that from a pure wealth creation perspective, for the social equity candidates, there aren't really any handcuffs on the ability to sell or monetize a license, whether that's a 100% sale, a majority sale, a minority sale, or however you structure it. So I think, as you mentioned, making sure that you have the appropriate counsel from both a legal, perspective, and then to the extent you look to monetize, making sure that you have the appropriate financial advisor, support from someone who's done it before and has relationships with the credible buyers that actually have, real money and a track record of actually closing on these things.
Yeah.
So that you don't get stuck up with, hung up with, groups that can't, fulfill their commitments. So, people can, I agree with you. There's going to be a flurry of activity, I'm sure, not too long after these licenses are issued. But I would also encourage people to be disciplined, take their time, meet a few different groups, make sure that you have the right, advisors at your disposal. It's a huge decision, and there's a lot of, consequences on doing this the right way with the right group. And I'm sure, unfortunately, we'll hear a horror story of someone who got fleeced by someone who wasn't, on the up and up. And the good thing is there's enough folks with track records in this industry now that it's getting a little easier than it used to be to figure out, who's real, who has a demonstrated track record of being a good partner, and who follows through on their, financial and qualitative commitments.
Yeah, no, and you guys are publicly traded, right? So you need to worry about your reputation.
We are, and look, I take it very seriously. Heading up our, acquisition group, we've done about a dozen transactions over the last several years, and we've closed 100% of them without recutting deals along the way. So, that's a track record that probably rivals or bests most in the industry, and we take that very seriously. Our CEO and myself, we've come from businesses where handshakes mean something, and particularly in finance, you have a commitment on the phone, and that becomes a legally binding thing, and the minute you don't fulfill that one time, you're done. And so we've been trying to bring a level of professionalism and honorability that is up there with the best of industries, even outside of cannabis. And now that people can reference check us and see what we've done and say, yeah, those guys do what they say and say what they do, you tend to have very productive conversations with high quality folks, that we're dealing with on the other side. And that's made it a little bit more fun to be able to cherry pick, the people that we think are good folks to deal with as well.
Meta education, our credibility is everything. So we have to like tell the truth, all the time. And you just made it very difficult to me because I can't recommend now somebody to partner with an Arizona management company who doesn't have the experience that you guys do without talking to you guys first. You see what I'm saying? Like, so if you have company X in Arizona, because the reality is it's a wise decision to partner with a company who can do a management contract, do some sort of partnership deal to help you get going, where they can carry you along. It's a good end result. It will be. To go it alone and try to borrow the money from your mom or dad, you're gonna struggle, and it's gonna be a big pain in the butt. So, sell some sort of management partnership, go it alone. But if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Dimitri, I have company X out of Bisbee, who has a dispensary in Bisbee and a cultivation and wherever, and they want to do this partnership management thing with me." Now knowing what I know, that you guys have done this before in Illinois, and working across the country with this, I have to tell them, hey, there's people who've done this before. You should probably talk to them first. So
look, and I'm a pretty approachable guy. Like, I'll help people out if they're good people and have good questions, whether or not it makes sense, whether or not there's anything to do from a transactional perspective. So I want people to be educated. I want, people to have good outcomes, whatever that means for them, personally. Yeah. But look, there's a lot of things to think through just outside of the short term. Look, cultivation's super capital intensive. Are you really going to build it out? Does it make sense to build out a 5,000 or 10,000 square foot grow? My view is probably not. But not having any, internally sourced product is also a tricky place to be in, particularly when supply has been a little bit short. So thinking through how you're going to have relationships with the brands and access to the flower to be able to stock your shelves at a price point that works for the consumers is very important. It gets hard to do when you have one dispensary and you're not vertical. You partner with a private company. They might be great guys. They might even be a great operator. But what's your exit, right? How do you ultimately get your money out of there? Do you control, what that exit is? Who decides when they sell? What if they don't want to sell? How are you ever going to get your equity out of that thing? So there's so many nuanced things that people probably aren't thinking about in the excitement of, oh my God, I just won, license. I'm so lucky, which the answer is yes, you would be, if that's the case. But thinking through what the optimal solution is in the short, medium, and long term, they're probably going to encounter things that they've never thought about, or even if they have thought about, aren't really sure how to analyze them. And that's where talking to, folks, whether it's advisors, myself, others in the industry, is super important before you just get, into bed with someone and it's too late to change course.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm learning from you here. A lot of this to me is I like to call it an academic exercise, because I don't bear the same responsibilities that you have or a license holder will have, that actually has to dot the I's, cross the T's, and end up with legal structures. That's a lot more responsibility. But I'm learning that if I want a license, I'd call you. So what do I do next? And I probably say, okay, tell me about the art of the deal and what are my best options, and then see what happens, and weigh all the considerations and possibilities. But we're looking to hopefully do some sort of gatherings post awarding as well. But I really do see most of the social equity licenses being legally transferred, as they're allowed to be legally transferred, or some sort of partnership or management structure in place. Because I mean, the industry is just way too evolved at this point, and the needs are too much, and the capital intensiveness are too much. It's going to be really challenging, and you're aware of all those issues. We don't need to go through them again. But yeah, I mean, this has been a great one. I'm looking forward to sharing this with the public so people can get to know you. Is there any other topics that you'd like to touch on real quickly, or anything else about AIR that you think people should know? And then we'll give some contact information if you wanted to give Robert or Renzo a chance to speak. But yeah, this is great. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think the only other thing I just reiterate around about AIR is, we really have a stated goal of being, the best scaled producer of cannabis, in the local markets. And look, can someone have a nice little craft grow in California and do something unique? Yes. But we're really trying to be that strong neighborhood operator in each and every state and really focus on store level operations and the consumer driven experience. So, look, we get it. There'll probably be a little bit of anti-corporatization of cannabis to one degree or another, but we're really trying to be the group that does it the right way in the local markets, do right by the employees, by the consumers, by the industry. And we think that's the right way to build a business in this emerging industry and to show respect to the people who have come before us. And so that tends to really embrace and attract talent, as well as principals that either are license winners or maybe are smaller operators that are looking to partner or sell. And so I think that's put us at the epicenter of a lot of really interesting conversations with really high quality, groups. And we filter out, those folks as well. Who are the good, ethical, moral, commercial people that we want to spend our time with? Because life is short. We want to spend our time with good people. We have a great culture. We've had very little turnover, and this is fun. It's hard, but it's fun. And so I think finding the people on the other side that share that culture and those values is extremely important to us.
Well, I'd really like to, I don't know that many social equity applicants who have made a good choice to partner with MSOs or other dispensaries in other states, but that would be something that an experience, a case study that we'd really like to share with the Arizona community. And I think that would be fantastic if we could arrange that. Let's see if that's possible. But yeah, no, this is great. This has been really informative for me, and I hope everybody out there in social equity land has made a new friend, and found some valuable information here. Did you want to give Roberto or Renzo a shout out? Did they want to?
Sure, Renzo, I think you were just down there at the last meeting. I've been out to a couple, and I'll make sure to show my face at a couple of the upcoming meetings. But anything to add, Renzo?
Yeah, well, I think MITA provides a very interesting opportunity for social equity applicants. And Jamie, you hit it on the head, finding the right partner, talking to everyone you can, and vetting potential partners for these social equity folks is the right thing to do. And if people are using high pressure tactics and telling you can't do it without us, I think getting an idea of their character and their history in the space is really important. And you only get one chance to do it right, and really vet and make sure you have a full idea of what your options are, and and really have an idea of what you want to do. Do you want to stay in the business? Do you want to go out and lay on the beach? I think a lot of room for growth, a lot of different options for social equity applicants, but definitely do your homework, vet your potential partners, and get everything in writing.
Or do you want to take that 99% of the proceeds from what you make and give it back to expungement clinics or other charities, which we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, Renzo, that's some good points. Is Robert still around, or should we just?
I'm here. The one thing I would add, I echo everything Jamie said, because he's seen more companies and spoken with more businesses in the cannabis space than most individuals around. But having myself worked with a number of companies, both public and private, throughout the last 5 or 6 years now, it's been a very cool experience to get to know AIR, and a company does things the way that we do. So that'd really just be the one thing that I echo. It's a great place to work, and I'm proud to be here.
No, this is really cool. Yeah, I'll close up. Then Jamie, you can say the last word. But your email and your phone number will be on our website for people to find. But wow, what a privilege! What an honor to have you guys here. I'm thinking to myself, MITA's so lucky. I'm so lucky to be in the center of MITA, because there's people out there that need information. They need contacts. They need to know who to talk to, who the experts are. And it's our pleasure and our privilege to be able to bring them together virtually, and there's nowhere else are they going to find Jamie or Renzo or Robert. Where are they going to find you? How are they going to find you guys? And now we have you guys trapped in this video world, and it's going to be sitting online, and we're going to be emailing it out, sharing it aggressively during September, October, November. And if just one person finds you guys and benefits from that, we've done our job. But I think there'll be dozens. So I want to thank you guys all for being here and being part of our series. But Jamie, go ahead and close it up, and we'll say goodbye.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's been great to get to know the members of MEDA. I think you'll see a lot more engagement, from us, over the next couple of years now that we've gotten our initial Oasis platform, done, and I think you'll see more to come from us in Arizona. And like I said, we do want to be a resource, to people. We'll be a friend of the industry, give impartial advice, and we want to see this really be a success for the industry and for other states to look at this as something that did right by social equity candidates and have people that end up in a very good place no matter what their personal journey ends up being.
Yeah, well, thank you, Renzo, Robert, Jamie. Thank you guys for being here. Thank Air, and thank you for each giving an hour of your time to help further the educational process for everyone out there. So,
All right, thanks, Dimitri.
until next time,
All right, take care.
take care.